Hi and welcome to Financial Education for the Nation. My name is Warren Shute. I'm here on this, you say it's an autumnal day really, in June. It's pretty miserable up there with the delightful Paul, who puts a smile on everyone's face. How are you, Paul?
Hi Warren, thank you for that. How are you doing this week? Good week?
Yeah, good week, but come on, what's going on? We're in not the middle of, but pretty much in summer. It's June. And I've got thick cloud up there like I did in January, February, March when I was sort of going crazy. So fingers crossed it's going to blow over and we're going to have a glorious weekend and they're going to have a good start to the summer.
All right, good stuff. Well, let's continue the theme of cloudy weather while it is there, because I think today we're going to talk about Help to Buy a little bit, a bit of an explanation and what's good and not so good about it.
Yeah, I wanted to cover Help to Buy, particularly because it's in the news. Okay, so it's in the news for probably not such good reasons. People are saying, or the news are certainly saying, that people were borrowing money on Help to Buy when they really didn't need to, and therefore more money would have been available to other people so they could get on the housing ladder. But then it sort of dawned on me that, actually, do people really understand what Help to Buy is? Also, if you've taken it out and you've had it explained to you, it's a little different. But if you've never actually looked into it, you think, what is Help to Buy? It says what it is on the tin, really. Help to buy, but who's helping you to buy what, kind of thing. So that's really what I wanted to come say, to give people a bit more information about what the news is talking about.
Yeah, okay. All right, well, let's start with the very basics then. As you've just said, maybe some people don't know about it, but perhaps could benefit from it. What is Help to Buy?
Okay, so back in 2013, so cast yourself back to 2013, the housing market was pretty dire. We'd come out of the financial crisis in 2008, something like that, and it was still pretty trundling along. The previous 5 years of property price growth across the UK, so because this goes out to the whole of the UK, we do talk general figures, was about 9%. So house prices actually gone down over the previous 5 years. That's a concern to the government because property prices, particularly in England, the home is your castle, that kind of mantra, is a barometer of how the economy is doing and how we feel as individuals. So therefore, they wanted to stimulate the property market. And they came up with this scheme called the Help to Buy. And the Help to Buy scheme basically is it will give a loan to an individual buying a new home. Okay, so that's the first thing to be clear about. It's for new properties only. So it doesn't include your own house. If you're selling it and someone's buying your house, it's only a new property. The new property has to have a maximum value of 600,000. And it doesn't matter whether you're a first-time buyer or an existing property owner moving into a new home, it's just for new homes. So the first sort of thing that springs to my mind is, actually, is this really stimulating the property market, or is it stimulating the sale of new homes? That's the first sort of challenge you've got to sort of look at. The amount that the purchaser can borrow, okay, is 20% outside of London, and then later on they brought in 40%, so if we're doing it today, it'd be 40% inside of London. And that's based
40% of the value of the home?
Exactly right, yes, based on the purchase price. So, hey, look, let's keep maths really simple. Let's say we're buying a house for £100,000. If I'm outside of London, that would be £20,000 that I could borrow, okay, from the government. Or if I'm inside of London, that would be £40,000. I guess on the theory that property prices are much more expensive in London, and therefore people need more help to be able to buy the houses in London. Okay.
Sure.
There's a couple of rules around that. One of them is that the purchaser has to put in 5% deposit themselves, and they have to take a mortgage out for the difference with an approved lender. But pretty much most of the high street lenders, if not all of them, are on the panel of lenders.
Okay, so it's almost a way of bolstering your deposit then, because it's hard to save a deposit while you're renting. It's a way of giving you that extra.
I think that's where it was coming from. The challenge was people couldn't get the deposit to get on the housing ladder. The government thought of a strategy. Well, okay, if we lent the money to these individuals, so they got on the housing ladder, they were getting a commitment from themselves. So they've got 5%, put 20% in, 25%. They can then take out a mortgage for the difference, or the 75%. Okay, so it's helping people do this. And this has been going since about 2013. And to be fair, we don't do mortgages at Lexington. So as an advisor, I do mortgages, but I rarely get involved with mortgages. But back in the early days, there was a flurry of these things. But it seems to, whether it's in my radar or not, it seems to have quietened down more of late. But it's obviously hitting the news. So I wanted to sort of make sure we raise it.
Yeah, so it's hitting the news because reports out in the last kind of 24 hours really are suggesting that perhaps not everybody that's availed of this Help to Buy scheme actually needed to. There are some caveats because some of the reports have said actually people could afford a home, but maybe the Help to Buy helped them afford the home they wanted a little more. So it's
Yeah.
important to caveat beyond the headlines.
Yeah, no, you're right. And exactly that. And I think one of the concerns is that have new build companies, developers, inflated house prices because they know the purchasers can afford a bit more. So are we building up a problem for the future? Because there's something else with regards to the repayment loan, which I'll cover now. But if new build developers are inflating the house prices, so because they know buyers can afford a bit more money, well, actually, these houses will only sell on at the market value. So we might be building up a problem in the new build sector for a couple of years' time when people want to move on. Sort of every 7 years or so, people tend to move houses. But basically, you bought the house, okay? So let's say we've moved into the house, we've got the house, we put 5% deposit in ourselves. Let's say, for example, we've borrowed 20% because we're outside of London and we've got a mortgage for 75%. For the first 5 years, apart from the obvious bills that we all have to pay in a house, the utilities, etc., we pay our mortgage payments only. So we only pay our monthly payments to our mortgage lender. We don't pay anything on the Help to Buy loan. Okay? So it's basically free money for 5 years. And then after 5 years, we start paying back interest on the loan, currently about 1.75% a year. So now, if your loan is fairly modest, that's probably going to be kind of manageable. But most people's financial situation hasn't changed an awful lot over the last 5 years. So if we're starting paying this year, you go back to sort of 2014, you think about what you're earning stuff, most people in the UK probably earning about a similar amount of money. So they're going to have an extra bill to pay in 5 years' time to start servicing this borrowing. So that's another thing that concerns me, that these payments are going to start falling due and it's going to become expensive for people to borrow it. This interest that they pay then increases every year by inflation plus 1%. Okay? So, and the thing is with inflation, the great thing with the government is they choose the inflation that's suitable for them at the time. So if we look at state pension, we look at CPI, which is a lower rate of inflation, a consumer price index. But looking at this, they use RPI, retail price index, which is a higher rate of inflation. The basket of goods that it measures increases more rapidly. So we're looking at a higher rate of growth. Now, if that was done at around about sort of 5-6%, we're going for 1.75 to 1.86 towards 2, going up into the mid 2s. So it increases every year. It's still fairly cheap money. Don't get me wrong. That's still fairly cheap money. So 5 years we've paid nothing, and then we start paying it. So we've got to make sure we can afford it, but it's still fairly cheap money. The bit that I don't like is we can't pay that down easily. If we want to pay that borrowing down, we have to pay 10% as a minimum of the property value. So it's not 10% of the loan we've borrowed, it's 10% of the property value. And I've looked and I've checked this and I just can't get over it myself. I think it's everything seems to be linked to the property value. Okay, so that's a lot of money. So people want to start overpaying and paying things down. It's going to be very difficult for them to pay this borrowing off. And typically they're going to do it when they move. So when they sell the house and they move, that's when it'll be paid off. So I think you've got some kind of challenges around paying this money down. And I don't think it's so easy as maybe it was originally sort of told to people.
Okay, and I know you're a proponent of where we're in a position. Let's try and overpay the mortgage. Let's try and get that cleared as quickly as possible when we're in a position to, and when we've got everything else sorted out. But if you're maybe not, maybe if you're in this situation, you're really not thinking, well, I'm never going to have a chance to overpay the mortgage. Is it still something you're not such a fan of in that circumstance, or would you always say you never know what the future is going to hold?
Yeah, I think it's very easy for someone just to give their opinion and that opinion to apply to everyone. So everyone's circumstances are individual. There'll be some people listening whereby a Help to Buy is a golden ticket for them to actually get their foot on the housing ladder. And if they didn't have that, they wouldn't get on the housing ladder. Well, in those scenarios, if you're going to build a home for your family, then yeah, sure, it's a great idea. It's a great way of you getting onto the housing ladder. Is that Help to Buy loan expensive over time? Yes, it is expensive over time because you're going to be paying back a percentage of the house price. And let's face it, in general, over time, house prices do appreciate in the UK. Okay, but if the alternative is that you remain in rental accommodation for the rest of your life, well, then you'll have no asset ever. Okay, so at least this way, you're potentially going to own 80% of an asset because your mortgage will be repaid off and you'll always have the Help to Buy loan outstanding, but hopefully a fairly modest interest rate. Of course, that will increase over time, but it'll enable you to possibly sell in later years, in downsize. You'll pay the 20% of the sale price back. Okay, so it's expensive money, but you'll be on the house ladder and you'll own a house outright. So I'm not saying that these are wrong for everyone. That is definitely not what I'm saying. But if you're really struggling to get on the housing ladder, if it's something that's difficult for you to do and you need a way of getting on there, then this is ideal. And I think the thing is with the news, what they're really saying is so many people took this money because it was free money, as it were, 5 years to get onto the house ladder. That's really where it's inappropriate because they're taking it. I guess if they're borrowing the money and they're going to be in the house for 5 years, then sell it, well, you know, it's been free for that period of time. They just paid the 20% of the sale price back. Whatever the house is appreciated by, they've kept 80% of it. They're only giving away 20% of it. It's kind of like they're dealing on this scheme. But that's what kind of grates me a little bit. These things are put in place to help vulnerable people or people who really need support. Hey, we all go through difficult times. We all need a helping hand at times. And these schemes are in place to help those people who need that helping hand to get back on the straight and narrow or get back onto a plane where they can then move forward. But other people are trying to make money out of it. And I think that's the bit what's wrong, which is a shame. It's a massive shame.
Yeah, because I mean, I think it's just worth recapping what you're saying there. It seems on face value like a great deal. Free money for 5 years, very low interest rates, all looking good. It's that end game that's the important factor here, because you're borrowing 20% of the value of the home you're buying, the 100 grand home in our example. So you're borrowing £20,000 that you're going to eventually pay off. But you move after 7 years, let's suppose property goes through a boom in that time. Great, the value of your house has gone up. You're happy about that. But that 20%, what you're saying is when you're paying it back, it's 20% of the sale price. It's not the original value of the money that you took out. So that could be quite a lot more by then.
Yeah, it'd be a significant amount more, really, you know, because the way house prices have gone over the last 5 years are up 20%. If you'd have borrowed £20,000 of a £100,000 property, you're now going to pay back 20% of a property, 20% higher, £120,000 property. So, you know, your figures go from, say, £20,000 up to about £24,000. So, you know, 20% more, it's a big deal. These amounts of money we're talking about seem, oh, okay, it's not too bad. But hey, come on, guys, how many of us can buy a house for £100,000 in the UK? You know, if you're looking at a family home, you're normally looking a bit higher than that. In most locations, I do appreciate there are some sectors in the UK that don't have those house prices. You get some more affordable houses, but it's a general rule of thumb. I guess another thing to point out, and this is to be fair to the Help to Buy scheme, is it's a percentage of the sale price when you sell, okay? So 20% or 40% in London. If house prices do fall or decline over that period, you do pay back less. Okay, so you know, it is set up in that respect as being a fair method. I guess my biggest thing is one of the things I really try and get everyone to do, I think it's a really important thing for you to do, is to get out of debt. I think once you get out of debt, you have more options, more control. You certainly have more disposable income. And for so many people, the psychology or the belief around getting out of debt is so limiting because they've been in debt for so long, or that their families may have been in debt. And they've kind of carried this identity that I will never be debt free. And that's not true. That's not true. If you follow a proven system, a process, you can be. It might take you longer than other people, but you just got to stick to the program. And it's not really allowing people to get out of debt easily. I guess what they would need to do is focus on their main mortgage first, repay that, because paying back 10% as a minimum payment of the property value to pay down this loan is quite difficult for virtually all people, I would say, virtually everyone.
Okay, so, and just briefly, I guess, in a sort of related way in some ways then. So if you're watching this and you're thinking, okay, maybe Help to Buy isn't for me, we've covered certain investment vehicles in the past that can help people get onto the property ladder, perhaps with a more long-term view. And I'm thinking about one of the ISAs that we've covered in the past, and that potentially, again, there's some free money involved in that, right?
Definitely free money in there, and I think the lifetime ISA, the LISA, is a fantastic way for people to get on the housing ladder. Really, putting away £4,000 a year, getting a 25% bonus on that money, saving it up, and 2 individuals have one each. It's a great way to put money aside to enable you to save up your deposit to get on the housing ladder. It might mean that you end up buying a property of lesser value than you could do with a Help to Buy scheme, okay? But what it does enable you to do is own 100% of the property and pay that mortgage down. So you build equity so that you can then upscale. Don't get me wrong, guys. I think your main home as an investment is a wonderful investment. I think it's a great investment, okay? But I still want you to pay your mortgage down as soon as you can on it. Buy the biggest house you can comfortably afford and pay that mortgage down. The reason it's a great investment is because when you exit this property towards your later days, whether it's retirement or what have you, you exit it and it's tax-free. So it's tax-free growth. Also, the money plan is all about enjoying the process. So making smart money decisions, but enjoying the process of today, because we don't know how many more tomorrows we've got. In precious time for so many people, it's just running out. For all of us, it's just running out. So by having a nice home, you enjoy the process. Don't overextend yourself so you're going to get yourself in financial difficulties. Make sure you're smart on the amount of interest you pay, so you're keeping it as low as rate as you can, and then make really concerted effort to take your at least 12.5% of your income, put some of it towards your retirement planning, some of it towards your overpayment on your mortgage, and then pay some back to yourself. And in the money plan, we talk about a 40-40-20 split. So we look at your income. We say, right, the first working hour of a working day should be paid to you. So that's 12.5%. We split that 40-40-20. We take 40% of that money and we pay it into our retirement account. We take 40% of that money and we overpay it onto our mortgage. We take 20% of the money and we pay it back to ourselves. And that's because we've got our banking, our spending money very, very lean. So we're basically just paying as minimum as we can on everything. By paying the 20% back to ourselves every month or quarter or year, however it works for you, you give yourself a reward to stay on the program, because you're not going to pay your mortgage off quickly. You're not going to become financially independent quickly. You're going to do it consistently and, unfortunately, slowly. It takes time. And anyone who tells you you're going to get rich quick is trying to sell you something. But that's why we that's why we enjoy the process. And we have this strategy, 40-40-20, pay yourself back so that you stay on the program. If you went to a dietitian or a nutritionist and said, I need to lose 40 pounds or whatever, and they said, great, okay, you're never going to have your favorite, whatever it is, wine, beer, pizza, cheese, chocolate, I don't know what your thing is. You're not going to have it for 15 years or 10 years or 5 years or whatever. You would probably say, well, that's just not possible. You would do it for so many days, weeks, maybe a few months, and then it's most likely you'll fall off the wagon. The same will be the same for finance. If I said to you, right, put half your savings money into your open mortgage, half into your retirement account, everything else, and don't overspend, keep your money, keep very tight on budget, don't do nice holidays, that kind of thing. And then if you're lucky, everything will be all right and you better retire early. You're not going to buy it. You're not going to buy it because you're putting your life on hold. And life is the thing that happens to us as days and days go by, what we're enjoying. That's why we pay 20% back to ourselves so we can enjoy life, but at the same time be smart by overpaying our mortgage and ensuring we're investing into our retirement accounts. And to tie it all back together, if you are really struggling to get on the housing market, okay, if you're really struggling to save up a deposit, really be honest with yourself. Go through your bank account, make sure you cut out unnecessary things. One of the things I share with my clients, particularly when they're younger and they're looking to get on the housing market and have a family, is I challenge them to live off of one income, whatever's income that is. And the reason I do that is because if you're going to have a family and their plan is for one of the parents to stay at home, at least initially, to raise the family, then they're going to be on one income anyway. So why not practice now and try and live off one income as close as you can and save the other person's income? Saving that income is really going to make a big difference towards putting money towards for your retirement, or in this case, for your property purchase, for your deposit. So it's a nice little thing to try and do. But build up as big a deposit as you can. Use the things like the lifetime ISA. I think they're brilliant. I think they're absolutely wonderful. Once you're on the property market, just use that strategy. Start overpaying your mortgage, get it repaid as quick as you can. Start building your retirement accounts as well at the same time, because that will build your confidence. Both things work hand in hand. I don't think one should be done in isolation. And there you go. You'll have a successful financial life, and then the best bit of it is you get to do what you want to do yourself to enjoy things along the way.
All right, good stuff. So I think let's close on out then. Just see beyond the headlines, both the glorious figures at the beginning when free money is dangled your way when we're coming back to Help to Buy, and maybe a little bit beyond the headlines of the last 24 hours where suddenly Help to Buy is a rotten scheme and all it does is boost the profits of the building companies. Yeah. The answer, as usual, probably lies somewhere in between, depending on your circumstances.
Completely agree. Brilliant. Thanks, Paul. You have a great weekend.
Thanks, Warren. Take care.